friends, my name is Garima and in this video I am going to talk about SDLC and Waterfall model. SDLC stands for Software Development Life Cycle, meaning the phases involved in the development of a software. But before we deep dive into SDLC, let's first understand the steps involved in building a house. To build a house, you would be first actually discussing how much is my budget to build the house. Next, you would be talking about what is the timeline. You would also be discussing on the design, that means how many floors are there and how many rooms would be required, and ultimately on the timeline decided, that is the delivery date, you would be actually delivering the house.
SDLC is similar to the analogy of building the house. This diagram depicts all the phases involved in the software development life cycle. The first phase is the planning, then we have defining, next is designing, then building, and after testing, the final deployment of the software is done. Planning phase is the critical phase as all the decisions are made here. The stakeholders sit together with the product and project managers to talk about the requirement of the software application. They also discuss about the resource allocation and finalize the delivery timeline. The next phase, that is the defining phase, is just an extension of the planning phase. All the requirements that were discussed in the planning phase are jotted down into the document that is called as software requirement specification document. Let's consider that our stakeholders want to build an e-commerce application for selling their electronic goods. Now, the business analyst would be discussing in detail on this ask and questioning whether the request is for mobile or web application. These requirements would be written into the SRS document. Questions such as performance related requirements about how many users are expected to simultaneously log this application, and security requirements such as the login mechanism would also be finalized in this phase. The next phase is the designing phase. In this phase, the technical folks analyze the requirements and come up with the architectural design on how actually this software is going to be built. Moving on to the building phase. In this phase, all the developers actually do the coding to create the application. So since there are multiple developers, some would be working on the login module, some would be working on the payment gateway, others would be working on the placing order part. So all the components are integrated together and a complete software is finally created. Next, in the testing phase, the testers test to ensure that the software is built as the requirement specified in the requirement document. If there is any difference between the specified requirements and the software actually built, then those are raised as bug and the developer fix them to make sure that we again align with the requirements. At the end of the testing phase, the testers on the team give a go ahead whether the software is ready for deployment or not. So if there is a go ahead from their end, meaning the software is built as per the requirements and is now bug free, then this is deployed on some of the environment. It depends what was discussed in the initial phase, whether we want it to be alpha beta tested or we directly want it to take gamma. So based on that, the deployment is done and the access is given to the either the alpha users, beta users, or it is directly deployed on the gamma location. Yeah, that's the happy moment when our software is finally live and after huge amount of effort, after a long timeline, it can now be accessed by the users. I hope the stakeholders would be happy now. So the next topic is waterfall model. This is one of the basic approaches of SDLC. We can see that the phases over here are similar to what we discussed in SDLC. It starts with requirement gathering, doing the analysis of those requirements, preparing the technical design, actual coding is then done, and after testing it is deployed on the production. At last, since this software might be getting some feedbacks from real customers or from stakeholders, so they are entertained in the maintenance phase. The developers do the development and then patch releases are again deployed on the production environment. Waterfall model is incremental approach of software development, meaning The earlier phase has to be completed and then only the next phase can be started. So now you can imagine if there was some gap in understanding of the requirements, it may require the developers to do a lot of rework after the software is released. Also, in this case, the business value of the work is realized only after the deployment phase. So this kind of model is not suggested for large projects. In fact, it is suitable only for the small projects where the requirements are also fixed. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. Please do like and share. Stay tuned by subscribing to Career Designer channel. Goodbye.